Hello and welcome to another episode of the In-News series. Today we are going to talk about the draft Indian Telecommunication Bill of 2021. With due respect, retreating monsoon, here we are. And if you're hearing any thunder, then sorry for that. Moving on, let us look at the many topics that we are going to cover in today's segment, ranging from the news, what are OTT platforms, how is the OTT and social media regulated. We will also know about the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, the TRAI, and the draft bill highlights, as well as what are the benefits, as well as the challenges, plus the question. So the draft bill has been moved to seek response from the stakeholders with respect to what needs to be done in this bill, if we have to improve and what not. We will discuss about that as well. And this bill particularly wants to entail the internet-based OTT telecom services as well as social media platform under its authority. Moving ahead, let us talk about what are OTT platforms. OTT are over-the-top platforms. These are services that offer viewers access to movies, TV shows and other media by directly using the internet. That means if they are being provided, they are bypassing cable or satellite system. The satellite cable system, as we know it, is regulated by the Cable Television Networks Regulation Act of 1995, which is not the applying authority or the applying act in case of OTTs. Like you use Netflix, Amazon Prime, these all are over-the-top platforms. They use internet to provide the service. If anybody wants to get it, then they should have an internet-connected device that could range from tablets, phones, even smart TVs. Okay, so how is the current situation dealing with OTT and social media regulation? Now, last year, the Information Technology Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code Rules of 2021 came into being, in which it basically gave soft touch self-regulatory infrastructure. That means it wanted the OTT platforms and the social media to guide themselves to have their own self-regulatory guidelines. Okay. And that was guided by Code of Ethics. There was certain set of guidelines known by the name of Code of Ethics, which are guiding these OTT platforms in providing services. Okay, and they also had to provide a 3-tier grievance redressal mechanism. Okay, so if there is any grievance, then 3-tier structure is there to resolve those grievances. Let us know more about it. For the 3-tier grievance mechanism system, we have to have a grievance officer who is based in India, and the problem should resolve in 15 days. This is the general amount of time, that 15 days time period is given to solve the crisis at the level of grievance officer. Also, every publisher, they need to become a member of a self-regulatory body, and this self-regulatory body should be coming to the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. Okay, and the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, as well as the interdepartmental committee constituted by the ministry, they all form a proper, they constitute what? They constitute a proper 3rd-tier system. So there is the supervision of the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, but that is done with the help of grievance officer who is based in India and a self-regulatory body in which the grievance officer, the publisher, will be there. Moving ahead, if we talk about the general rules which guide the OTT platforms and internet-based platforms to give their services, they include, they should prohibit publishing any content which is prohibited under the law of India and which might hurt the integrity and sovereignty of India. Apart from that, they should also consider India's multiracial and multi-religious context and not publish something that is outrightly dangerous in nature. Okay, that can hurt the sentiments of our ethnicities, religious and linguistic minorities. Display age-based content rating and content descriptor for each content. So, description should be there, and at certain times, if viewers' discretion is possible, that should also be provided. If parents' discretion is possible or if it is needed, then that should also be described. Apart from that, there should be a mandatory 3-tier institution mechanism for handling public grievances that we have already discussed. Now, similarly, we have the same fashion under the same rules. Under the same rules, we have for social media as well. And it was done to curb the persistent spread of fake news. when fake news and fake propaganda used to, trigger the entire mass sentiment, it could lead to passionate actions which are not in the interest of the country and the society. So abuse of these platforms were also being done to share morphed images of women and also child pornography. Apart from that, contents related to revenge porn or to settle corporate rivalries were also seen, and that is why these rules were brought. So it's a self-regulatory body. Self-regulation was needed, in which a self-regulatory body was given, provision was there, and the oversight from the Information and Broadcasting Ministry was there, and that included codes of practices and grievance committee. Same structure, almost same, not very different. Okay, and here also the grievance redressal system, in which the companies such as WhatsApp, Facebook, they should have a chief compliance officer. Also, there should be a nodal complaint person or contact person. If I have to complain, I have to get in touch with this person. Okay, and the complaints, whatever are against the dignity of the user, specifically if it is against the women, then the images or the content, they need to be taken down within 24 hours. That is the rule. Okay, and also monthly reports should be provided, in which it should be explicitly mentioned that what all mechanisms are there to deal with such situations. If there are situations with respect to content, what kind of complaints have been dealt with, how many complaints have been dealt with, so that the government knows what is happening in the country with respect to its societal use of platforms. Now, if we talk about Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, then it came as a statutory body into the existence by an act of the Parliament. The date was 20th February 1997. Telecom Regulatory Authority of India Act is the name, and it is there to provide telecom services such as fixation or revision of tariffs for telecom services, which were earlier vested in the central government. Now it has been vested with the TRAI. Okay, moving ahead, let us talk about the draft Indian Telecommunication Rules. It wants to consolidate three separate acts. These are colonial acts and one is post-independence. First is the Indian Telegraph Act of 1885, then comes the Indian Wireless Telegraphy Act of 1933 and the Telegraph Wires Unlawful Protection Act of 1950. Okay, and the information transmitted and received over telecommunication service could be intercepted by an authorized official. This has been provided in the bill. That means surveillance could be done, and if it is possible for companies to provide them with the reports, that should also be done, because certain information can hurt the sovereignty, integrity and security of India, friendly relations with other states and public order, or prevent incitement of offences. First, the problem here is that what about the services that WhatsApp provides us? WhatsApp generally works on the encrypted messaging service base. Okay, that means even the WhatsApp doesn't know what you are talking with your friend or family or anybody. So encryption is there. How will they provide the report with respect to any information of the conversation to the surveillance officer? This is going to be debated. Apart from that, it also wants to amend certain powers of the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. So one amendment is there that is going to do away with the regulatory powers of TRAI. How? See, whenever the government has to provide license to certain service provider, then the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India's nod is given. But this power will be done away with according to the bill. Apart from that, if certain recommendations are asked by the government from TRAI, then TRAI asks for government documents, and that will also be removed. This power will also be removed. The government need not give documents to TRAI anymore. Apart from that, TRAI may direct operators to abstain from predatory pricing. That means not to have pricing, we are talking about OTT specifically here, not to provide pricing in such a manner that it gives it dominance or monopoly in the region. So fair competitiveness should be there. Prohibition of the appointment to be removed. Earlier, it was said that to be a part of TRAI, any government official should not be less than the post of secretary or additional secretary. Then this particular rule also is to be done away with according to the bill. A proposal by DOPT, Department of Personnel and Training, has said, this is not the bill but a proposal is given, that whenever there is a spectrum given to the licensee and the licensee becomes bankrupt, okay, then what happens? The spectrum goes back to the government. This is a proposal as of yet. Now the center, according to the bill, will have the powers to defer, convert into equity, write off or grant relief to any licensee under the extraordinary circumstances. So center becomes all powerful over here. Moving ahead, now it will also replace the Universal Service Obligation Fund with the Telecommunication Development Fund. In the Universal Service Obligation Fund, whatever the adjusted gross revenue of telecom companies arise, the 5% of it goes into this pool. So funding is done through here. Now, it will also help in this particular move is also going to help in aiding rural connectivity. Apart from that, boosting connectivity and underserved urban areas, because whenever the government will come into the picture, then of course it will take the entire country as a whole. Earlier, this OTT platform and social media platform, these were very fragmented in nature, more and so they were concentrated in the urban areas. But for the rural areas, this will provide a boon. Research and development as well as skill development and jobs will also be created in this particular arena. Now moving on to the benefits. First of all, whenever anything is being regulated at the central level, we can definitely expect it to become better. Suppose in a school, if we have many classes and every teacher is going through with their own syllabus, then what happens? Regulation of education becomes a challenge. But if a principal, an integrated body comes into being, what happens? Regulation becomes better. A tab on the freedom of expression not being abused. That means sometimes it can happen that freedom of expression, as it is suggested by our Article 19, it can get abused. Some kind of expressions can be used into the OTT platform, over the OTT platforms as well as social media, which can hurt religious sentiment, right? Fundamental rights are not absolute in nature, they are qualified in nature, so that also is there. Impact will be given on fake news. If fake news is propagating, how it is propagating, what is the originator, everything can be known if proper surveillance is done, and that is a challenge, one of the challenges. Anti-national propaganda, specifically that is arising from anti-national elements in the country, will also be kept a tab upon. There are certain challenges as well. What if the government in totality becomes a surveillance state? If the surveillance authority is there, of course, it can have an impact on the Article 21, right to privacy. So, right to privacy is given to every citizen in the country. Under what pretext? Because the definitions are very open-ended, such as what is public order, it's not defined in the Constitution. Friendly relations with states, not defined in the Constitution. Morality, not defined in the Constitution. So, taking advantage of that, the state can become a surveillance state. Okay, and there is a threat to freedom of expression. As I told you that there is the problem of open-ended words that leads to total interpretation of those words, and this can also give rise to litigation in the courts. So judiciary can also become overburdened. So this is the way that you have to write in your mains answer. One after the other, the points need to be intertwined. Okay, moving ahead, let us look at our question. This is from the perspective of mains. Okay, so try to answer this. What are the regulatory challenges with respect to the over-the-top platforms? What initiatives have been undertaken by the government to tackle them? In 250 words, be direct. Okay. Now, as we said, that these kind of particular segments are very important from the analytical perspective as well as factual. Try to practice this question. This is for your own betterment. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Stay updated and stay engaged.